Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings to everyone listening worldwide on HughHewitt.com, at my YouTube channel. Just type in Hugh Hewitt, or on Town Hall TV. We're glad to have you on this April 20th, the year of the plague, 2020. I am Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, bringing you the good, the bad, and the ugly about the plague and all other breaking news, including a massacre in Canada last night of 14 people by a dentist. That story is so weird and terrible. I'll get to it in the course of this, but first, let me bring you up to speed on the latest news about the virus. Worldwide, there are 2,400,000 infections that are official. We know China is lying. We know Iran is lying. There have been 770,000 plus deaths worldwide because of the virus that originated in the Wuhan laboratory. In the United States, 165,000 people have died. 165,000 people have the virus. 41,134 have died from it. The good news is the early data on remdesivir, let's call it RDV, which is the drug being developed by Gilead. Early leaks on it are very, very encouraging, far more encouraging than hydroxychloroquine, which is still being debated, but RDV just appears to be the proverbial silver bullet. And if that happens, all bets are off, and maybe the V-shaped recovery is true. But if not, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, with the consent of Joe Biden, continue to block Paycheck Protection Plan replenishment. They're killing people. They're absolutely just destroying lives and businesses for political reasons. It's shameful. Nancy Pelosi, with her stockpile of ice cream and her $24,000 for a refrigerator and $13 a carton ice cream. It's disgusting that they have not passed this over the weekend. Oh, maybe we'll get around to it Tuesday or Wednesday. Let me read to you a post called Wisdom Through Humility, Lessons from the COVID-19 Crisis by Pete Bowen and Bailey Bowen. Bailey is Pete Bowen's youngest daughter and social media manager. I've known Pete for 20 years. Former Marine Corps fighter pilot, former head ethics officer of Los Angeles Unified School District, former head of school, president of Servite High School in Orange County, California, one of the more respected business consultants in Southern California when I lived there. He still is. He wrote this: I learned a few important lessons last week and thought some might find helpful. On March 17th, government-ordered COVID-19 shutdowns reduced my consulting business income to zero overnight. That's a month ago in 3 days. The same week, 2 of my 3 daughters were laid off from their jobs. At the same time, we were told that the shutdown would be a couple of weeks. It would be tough and painful, but we would get through it. Though I had no income, we had enough savings to go 6 months on a bare-bones budget. Besides, the government promised help for businesses like mine to get through it all. I applied for unemployment and tried to apply for the PPP loans the government promised. We weren't too concerned. We felt comfortable that our savings could carry us past the crisis. Then the shutdown kept getting extended, first to a month, then 8 to 12 weeks. At the same time, the government promises started falling flat. As a sole owner LLC, I had to wait until Friday, April 10 to apply for a PPP loan. I didn't get access to an online application until Tuesday night, April 15th. By then, the PPP money was already gone. Unemployment, I got denied for several reasons, including that I had excess earnings of $145 one week when I took a 35-minute client phone call. We are genuinely grateful for the $2,400 federal money we did receive. Here in Orange County, California, that's about 10 days of living expenses for a family of 4 at the low-income level. Then the shutdown kept getting longer, writes Bowen. 3 months and 6 months, maybe 12 to 18 months. Last week, we realized that our savings are going to run out long before our political leaders tell us the economy will reopen. Government-ordered shutdown took away our money. There is no PPP money for us, no EIDL money. I don't even know what that is. No unemployment money, no business income for as long as a year. We're in trouble. We are in trouble. We have to compete with 25 million other Americans to find jobs that generate a combined $50 an hour for us to make the low-income level. My family is not alone in this. A school teacher, hairdresser friend of mine is already part of the rising black market economy. She's a long-term substitute teacher who's only getting $800 a month in unemployment because her UI base rate was way too low as a substitute teacher. How is she going to make her $2,000 rent on May 1. How is she going to buy food? If you were in her situation, would you cut people's hair in their homes despite the government guidelines? A good friend owns an Orange County tourism business. Looks like they are approved for PPP money and they are grateful. It will help them get through the end of June. The problem is that Disneyland may not reopen until August or September. There's no apparent mechanism by which they can last through August, much less September or October, which is how long it will take for them to get their businesses back up and running. If they go out of business, it will be very difficult for them to restart it. The wife of another friend beat stage 4 cancer 2 years ago. With a compromised immune system, she is high risk for COVID-19. Nevertheless, she's working in a grocery store because the fear of COVID-19 is outweighed by the need for the income. These are all educated, upper middle class people running successful businesses until the government shutdowns or ended their work. All of us have been willing to make big personal and professional sacrifices to help address this terrible pandemic. But when politicians blithely talk about shutdowns lasting 6 or 12 or 18 months and the government help lasts 2.5 months or doesn't come at all, you are hit in the face with a new recovery. Our 6 months of savings went from more than covering the shutdown to it's going to fall way short. How am I going to feed and house my family when our savings run out? My friends whose companies receive millions in PPP loans explain to me with some condescension that they are sorry I'm in this spot, but this is all necessary to keep the pandemic down. The message comes across as, if you understand how important all this is, you wouldn't feel this way. You just need to get more informed. You need to adjust your thinking. Then they spend most of their energy and time fighting over whose fault this is. In the beginning of April, I thought largely the same way. I had a path to get through this. With 6 months of savings and promises of government help, I was socially distanced from the impact of shutting down our economy. Now the government promises have fallen flat and my path appears to come up short. My Marine Corps response to them, are you blanking me? Lesson 1. I am reminded that as much as I think I understand the pain of others, there's a big difference when I'm actually in it. This leads to lesson 2. The top 10% of this nation, that's you and me, are overconfident, self-absorbed, and smug. We are highly educated but lack wisdom. We've got degrees from prestigious universities where we benefited less from what we learned and more from the resulting social status and connections. We value pure intellectual knowledge over wisdom, and we are the worst for it. We are overconfident and smug. We don't listen to people who disagree with us to see if we can learn something. Instead, we attack them because disagreement means they are either stupid or evil. We are self-absorbed. Bad things happen to other people, not us. None of these traits are wise or helpful when it comes to tackling a crisis like this. I didn't understand the impact of shutting down the economy until I felt the impact on me. I got an important lesson in humility. My CEO friends who got millions in PPP money are blind to the possibility that they are just a few months behind me, even when that possibility is put explicitly before them. Whether you feel safe financially, when you feel safe financially, it's easy to be insensitive to what's happening to tens of millions of our brothers and sisters throughout America. It's easy to lecture them about the shutdown that is so important to the economy. Nationally, we've got at least 68 million families, with over 100 million people who live paycheck to paycheck. We have 25 million unemployed in America. In Los Angeles County, only 45% of residents have jobs. Now, instead of thinking about, try to emotionally feel the following. The PPP money your law firm or business received just ran out. All your clients called in the last few days, they can't pay their bills. You have zero receivables. You have just 3 weeks of personal money for your family's expenses. You need $7,000 a month in Southern California to survive at the low-income level. You're receiving $800 a month in unemployment. Political leaders nonchalantly mention that the shutdown will go for 6 to 12 months, so you have little hope of work until October, maybe. May 1 is coming. Are you going to spend your $800 on food or offset the $2,000 rent? We haven't even talked about electricity or heat or phone or insurance bills. Now that you've had a few weeks of food, you always spend money on food before rent. How are you going to do this again on June 1 and again on July 1? This is an amazing post. I have tweeted it out. I'm going to read the rest of it when we come back. Keep in mind, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are still blocking Paycheck Protection Plan replenishment. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are still screwing millions and millions and millions of Americans. And you know what? Once they get done with Paycheck Protection Plan 2, they're going to have to go back and say, if you qualified in 1 or 2, you qualified for 3. It's that simple. The government has shut down the economy. The government has to provide the money. All of us has to pay for this via debt. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I'm playing bump music from the movies we were watching through the pandemic. I do one each hour. You can guess it. Meanwhile, I want you to hear the end of the posting by Pete Bowen, former Marine Corps aviator, jet pilot, fighter pilot, head of Servite High School in Orange County for many years, lead ethics officer for Los Angeles County, really one of the finest guys I know. His business is just shuttered, zero. 2 out of his 3 daughters thrown out of work. Our leaders, that's you and me, have little sense of what tens of millions of people are going through as you read this. They think we've never actively listened to them or tried to feel what they're going through. Why would we listen? We're more educated than they are. We know more. A wise and honest approach would actively listen to everyone. It would pay as much attention to what our 100 million are going through as it does to what our hospitals are going through. It would focus on balancing we must remind ourselves that there's a big difference between abstract pain of others and feeling actively listening. 4747. Or go to hughgold.com. Overnight, what happened abroad? Japan went down 1%. Hong Kong, tweet out Pete Bowen's piece. You need to be diversified. You need to be aware of the other 100 million people who are suffering. And if you can, reach Nancy Pelosi and tell her to get moving. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Mike answered, but he says, I'm running behind. He says, 5 minutes.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Standing by for Mike Allen of Axios AM. He'll be along shortly. This music is from the soundtrack of the flick I watched yesterday. If you can identify it, good for you. Nova Scotia shooter identified as denturist Gabriel Wortman. Last time I'll ever mention his name on this show. The man who fatally shot 16 people during a bloody rampage in Nova Scotia yesterday was a 51-year-old denture maker. He went on a shooting spree in several towns dressed as a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer driving a mocked-up RCMP vehicle, according to the Canadian Broadcast Company. The deadliest shooting in Canadian history. Motives unknown. In the middle of a virus. Just insanity. U.S. oil price plunges to 20-year low as coronavirus hits demand. And West Intermediate Texas, the U.S. oil benchmark, was down to $14.99 a barrel. And there was a time when I was a youth, I'm in high school in the 70s, where the gas price wars got down on the four corners of Warren, Ohio. There was a gas station, corner of North Road and East Market, gas station on each corner. And they got into a gas war. And it got down to 22.9 cents a gallon. We'd drive everywhere on a buck. 5 guys in a car doing what teenage boys do. 22 cents we're going back there. If you want that essay I read, it's by Pete Bowen. You can follow him on Twitter at Pete Bowen. And you ought to get on the phone, 202-224-3121, to Speaker Pelosi and every Democrat. They are blocking the Paycheck Protection Plan replenishment. This is now not rocket science. They have figured it out. Who is eligible, how to process the loans. It's just a question of money. And there are thousands of small businesses, tens of thousands of them, employing hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people in line, ready to go, waiting for the money. People who have to be laid off, probably on Friday they got laid off because of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Once you've done Paycheck Protection Plan 3, you have to open up a window, a line to see who got missed by 1 and 2. And then at the end of May, you've got to renew everyone who got Paycheck Plan Round 1 because they will then be out of money again. If you want them to shut down, fine. This is now not going to be hard. You need 3 rounds to identify all of the eligible, and you need major programs for industries hard hit, like the airlines, There are lots of industries where, for example, restaurant chains ought to be eligible. They employ thousands of people. I do not know why they are not getting a window opened at the Treasury Department. But there are obvious things, and Nancy Pelosi is out there trying to replenish pension funds for her special interest groups and get money to state and local governments. State and local governments need to take significant hits, which they are doing, of 10, 20, 30% in their overhead. Not lay off 10, 20, or 30%. Cut the pay of 10, 20, 30%. And I honestly think people are coming to grips with the fact that this is going to last a long time in some places and not very long in others. And Germany began to reopen today. Why can't we begin to reopen? Meanwhile, I repeat, Gilead's drug RDV is a broad-spectrum drug designed to block replication of RNA viruses. It wasn't particularly effective against Ebola, but it appears to be working against COVID very well. They have got one trial very far along, a second trial going very well. They've got the 5-day course for people not on a ventilator, a 10-day course for people not on a ventilator, and they have a 10-day course for people on a ventilator. There's at least a really good chance it's going to work. In a recent randomized controlled trial of the drug, the 28-day mortality rate was 22%. 1 out of 199 patients were receiving invasive ventilation at the baseline. So what you need to know is it's very technical. It's good news. The stars could be lining up just right for RDV, Gilead in the country. And they've got other kind of tests going on with other kind of interventions. Meanwhile, the White House press corps on the weekend, just not the A-team. They are the bad news bearers of news. And here's a gotcha question from Weijia Zhang of CBS, cut number 5.
And you saw Brett Baer making a statement. They had a debate well into February. And not even mentioned, it wasn't even mentioned, the Democrats. We were very early. Oh, I'm the president. And you know what I just did? And you know what I just...
And by the way, when you issued the ban, the virus was already here.
Okay, and you know how many people, when I issued the ban, how many cases of virus were in the United States when I issued the ban? Do you know the number? No, how many cases? Remember I said one person. How many cases were here when I issued the ban?
But did you know?
No. You have to do your research. How many?
I did my research. On the 23rd of March, you said you knew this was going to be a pandemic.
Can I tell you what? I did know it. All I have to do is look.
So you knew
anybody knew it. Are you ready? How many cases were in the United States when I did my ban? How many people had died in the United States?
So do you acknowledge that you didn't think?
Keep your voice down, please. Keep your voice down.
Did you not?
How many?
Stop for a second. You get this accusatory. Do you acknowledge? Did you know? I'm looking at this. I'm watching. I said, this is not journalism. What she think? She Perry Mason? It wasn't just her. Jeremy Diamond was worse of CNN. Now he is truly the C team. Cut number 11. Jeremy Diamond asking a question. I just said, what? Cut number 11.
What we really need now is...
No, that's not correct. That's 13. Cut number 14. I'm sorry, cut number 14.
And that's good for the future. People can learn from that. But I want the men and women of this country that are in danger, the admirals and the generals that have done a job like they've never done before. They're in war. We're in war. I call it the invisible enemy. That's a war. And it's a dangerous war. We're also at a level, when you said 40,000 people, and you're right, almost 40,000 people. And what? Oh, more than. Okay, good. Correct me.
41,000.
Well, I'm really glad you corrected me, CNN. But here's the story. Let me just tell you something. If we didn't do what we did, the 40,000 right now could be 1 million people. Could be 1 million people, not 40,000. It could be 1 million. We're tracking at much less than the lowest possible estimate. And that's a great tribute to a number of people and a number of things. One of the things that it's a tribute to is what's taken place in this country with the American people. Because they've gone inside, they've done it. They've done a job that nobody thought was possible. And in fact, when they did the models, as they call them, nobody thought it was possible. They did models not based on this kind of success. I've seen New York streets, and I see it in the morning. I've watched all my life New York streets, and you can't even see the pavement. There's so many people. And you take a look this morning, you take a look, even on Friday morning, I looked at it, I saw it through a camera. There wasn't a person on Fifth Avenue, there wasn't a person on Madison Avenue. I've never seen anything like it, because people have really listened to instructions, and they've listened to what we've had to say, and the professionals, they've listened. And those people should really give them a lot of credit, including people like you, because you just don't have the sense to understand what's going on. All right. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You missed the part where Jeremy Dimon said at the beginning. Let's see, did you get it at the beginning where Jeremy Dimon laid his accusation out? It's a remarkable thing. He said, "Were you duped by President Xi?" Now, that's nothing but an attempt to anger the president, and I think maybe they gave him instructions: go in there and just be a complete jerk and try and get the president to lose his temper. I think maybe the CBS reporter had the same instruction. They all kind of, I'm ready for my makeup. Can we get our ready for our makeup music ready? That's the whole weekend press corps. They're just ready for their makeup, looking for their moment, because they know that the Sunday shows dominate, and they know no one's going to pay much attention on a Sunday afternoon. I do. I watch every briefing that I can, every minute that I can, so I have context. This is shameful. The media is shameful. Pete Bowen points out they're shameful. They're not covering. I have repeatedly begged people via Twitter, ask about the return of the virus in the fall. The hardest question of all. Do we have any science indicating if it's coming back in a more lethal variety? What are you watching for? What are we going to do? What if it moves to children? Relationship with President Xi, and if so, how? That's how you do it. Not were you duped by Xi. It's just childish. They're all children. The media is becoming a giant group of kindergartners looking for attention and camera time. I think America is disgusted. Molly Hemingway was on Fox News with Howie Kurtz yesterday, and she spoke, I think, for all of us as we watched 95% of the national news media, cut number 10.
When President Trump made his plan for how to reopen the economy and how different people should be responding to data, it seemed almost difficult to criticize it, but we do have a media that seem to criticize literally anything that President Trump will say about this. And they also have a particular bias, I think, against reopening the economy. For some reason, they really seem to think that this shutdown needs to last for an incredibly long period of time, perhaps until a vaccine is found. It's just not great that everybody in the media seems to share this bias and be so opposed to ending the economic catastrophe, even as we're all concerned about the global pandemic.
That's because the people in the media who are covering this have not felt the economic catastrophe the way that Pete Bowen has. They have Pete Bowen on every show in America tonight, since he's eloquent, educated, and very articulate about this particular issue. Nancy Pelosi, who is blocking relief for tens of millions of Americans, went on George Stephanopoulos and said this. It's astonishing. Cut number 11.
What we really need now is, as we go forward with this interim package, of course, we all support the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, to help shape
Stop. That's a lie. Stop. That's just a lie. She does not support the Paycheck Protection Plan. That is a lie. She's lying. She lied again. Cut number 12. She lies.
I don't know who's saying that, but I will say overwhelmingly, my caucus, and we're working closely with the Senate Democrats, know that we have an opportunity and an urgency to do something for our hospitals, our teachers and firefighters and the rest right now. And then we are preparing.
Cut number 12. Stop. She is Ice Cream Nancy with her $24,000 refrigerator and her $13 carton of ice cream. She does not care about you. She is blocking the Paycheck Protection Plan. I'm the one who's saying it. You know it. Everybody in the town knows it. Everyone inside the Beltway knows it. She's trying to get some special interest money. She's retreating. Give her a fig leaf. I don't care. Get the money, though. Get the Paycheck Protection money out, because she's blocked it for 10 days. Yeah. Relief factor. I need it for Nancy Pelosi, but it doesn't work for Nancy Pelosi. Works if you got 40 miles in less. And bragging. 8 and 6 on Saturday and Sunday. 8 running, 6 walking. Sunday morning is walking in quiet time, not running and yelling at people to get out of my way. Lukewarm coffee, Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. ReliefFactor.com is what you need to take every single day. ReliefFactor.com. Natural supplements. Keep you moving. And there are lots of people out and walking. Great article in the New York Times. If you're outdoors and you're 6 feet apart, you're just not going to get the virus. Don't worry about it. You should have on a mask anyway. I learned a lot. Don't touch your shoes. Shoes pick up more disgusting stuff than I had ever any idea. That's why smart people have shoeless houses. But in the meantime, understand Salena Zito is next. Go get your ReliefFactor.com and come right back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Okay, finally heard back from Mike. We'll just do him at the bottom of next hour.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. The music I'm playing is from Gettysburg, which I watched yesterday. Yes, Martin Sheen, all 4.5 hours of it. It was a good way to spend a Sunday. Good morning, Salena Zito from Yinzerland. How are you, Salena?
I love that movie. I love that movie. I'm great. Every time I drive there,
some of those who are reinventing
Maryland, at the South Mountain Creamery, I mean, and it's not like it's just off the beaten path. It's off the beaten path. And this family, the Briscoe family, they started this business about 2001, 2002, and delivering.
I mean, word spreads farm to table, not farm to store to table, but farm to table.
Yeah,
So it's a great story. Now, I have to ask you before we lose you, Salena, if resentment is growing in Western Pennsylvania. I made a comment to us. These towns have died before and they don't want to die again.
Businesses are, what holds places together, and they're not only where you shop, they're also your neighbors and your friends and the people that teach your kids at CCD or coach your kids at Little League, and all of a sudden they're seeing their friends' jobs just shuttered, and she's doing a cutesy little video with the giant refrigerators and all that chocolate. That was huge.
And Joe Biden is trapped in his basement, not able to make a coherent argument about what's going on. I think they have exploded their base. They have lost any right to speak for the people, the workers, the service economy. But Salena Zito does. Follow her on Twitter at Salena Zito. Read her latest column on the dairy and the comeback of farm to home at Washington Examiner and Salena Zito. Come back for hour 2 of the Hugh Hewitt Show.
And that's good for the future. People can learn from that. But I want the men and women of this country that are in danger, the admirals and the generals that have done a job in war. We're also at a level, when you said 40,000 people, right, almost.
Morning, Glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. It's Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway. 41,134 Americans have died from the virus. 165,000 are ill or have been ill. Worldwide, 770,000 people have died. And we don't even have the real death toll because China and Iran are lying. Every day, the president, almost every day, I can't say every day, almost every day, the president joins the task force in the briefing. C-SPAN has posted a pretty remarkable series of graphics. The average daily briefing is an hour and 21 minutes. I love these briefings, by the way. I love the fact that journalists can be as smart or as stupid as they care to be. I think it's important that the president be out there as often as possible. I think you ought to carry every minute of these things. And Deborah Birx was on this week with George Stephanopoulos yesterday, speaking directly to China. Cut number 2.
You know, I think early on, when you go back to and again, I watch epidemics around the world, and the level of transparency and communication that you need, you have to over-communicate. You have to communicate even the small nuances. You know, when you look at the outbreak that's been reported in China, and you look at the outbreak that was able to be contained in South Korea and a series of Asian countries, you didn't see that kind of doubling rate. You didn't see that logarithmic increase that you see all throughout the developed countries of Europe and certainly in the United States. And so when you look at those countries, it wasn't until the beginning of March that we could all fully see how contagious this virus was, how transmittable it was. And I think that level between January, when we had evidence of this apparently, and when we really understood its level of transmissibility, it's always the first country that gets exposed to the pandemic that has really a higher moral obligation on communicating and transparency, because all the other countries around the world are making decisions on that. And that's something we can look into after this is over. I know the European countries are communicating very effectively with each other and with us. And when we get through this as a global community, we can figure out really what has to happen for first alerts and transparency and understanding very early on about how this virus and how incredibly contagious this virus is.
Right, the Chinese Communist Party is not part of the global community. They do not care. They screwed us. They used the Well, listen to Peter Navarro, the president's advisor for economics, on the Chinese Communist Party using the WHO. Cut number 8.
We know that for a critical 6-week period of time, China used its influence at the World Health Organization to hide the virus from the world. This was a time where that virus could have been contained in Wuhan. Instead, 5 million Chinese people went out from Wuhan and propagated the virus around the world. That was a critical time.
It's just so obvious that the blame for this world pandemic lies on the Chinese Communist Party. And what do you get from that, from the media? You get Jeremy Diamond of CNN asking this.
We're going to find out, yeah.
So when you repeatedly praised Xi in January and February, you said he will solve the problem. You said he was doing a great job. Were you duped by President Xi?
No. I made a deal that's phenomenal for the United States.
Were you duped by President Xi? That's Trump derangement syndrome. That's not journalism. Were you duped? Yeah, that's an accusation of stupidity leveled at the President of the United States. Were you duped? It's not professional. It doesn't meet any standard. The way to ask the question is, have you changed your assessment of President Xi's candor towards you? You might come back with a follow-up, but based upon everything they didn't do, was he lying to you? Not were you duped? And everyone out there understands. I wonder, America, what do you think of the media? 1-800-520-1234. Maggie in Pittsburgh, you called about something else, Maggie, but what did you think of Diamond, and were you duped? What did you make of that question?
I just wish we Americans could be there. I mean, I'd drive down there here in a second, and I'd ask them something pertinent, like how can we go back to work? We are stuck here. We have no money, and Governor Wolf wants us to go stand in a food line. Hugh, we are entrepreneurs. We work hard in Western Pennsylvania. I see people just beside themselves. I think it's too late. It's
not too late. The country can rally, but it's not going to be the Democrats and it's not going to be the media. They don't care about you. Maggie, thank you. They just do not care about you. Kathy in Clearwater. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, Hugh. Very good show. I'm getting up at 6 o'clock so I can hear you.
Thank you.
Because you are telling it right and you're honest. And I'm a Catholic, too, and I really appreciate your view.
Well, thank you.
And we watch the president's newscasts, news shows every day, and we think it's a great thing that he's doing to keep us informed. But every day that you watch it, just imagine they don't have any of these in China. They don't have any of them in Turkey. They don't have any of them in Iran. He has to put up with dopes. He has to put up with stupid questions, but some of them are really professional. Steve Holland is a great reporter. I think Steve does a great job. John Roberts does a great job. Most of the time, I think John Carl does a good job. Even Jim Acosta has been getting better, but on the weekend, when you get people who are looking for their close-up, that's when it goes crazy. Thank you, Kathy. 1-800-520-1234. Nancy Pelosi on with MSNBC in her safe zone, in her blue bubble, where the toxic air just overwhelms her and where they like her chocolate freezers and her $24,000 amount, or whatever that brand is. Cut number 13, MSNBC.
The second bill was mask, and trying to facilitate the personal protective equipment that we don't really have as much as we needed when we needed it because the president wouldn't do Defense Production Act. So the situation we're in is largely of his making, calling it a hoax, saying it would magically disappear, not calling upon the Defense Production Act to protect the workers who are trying to save lives as they risk their own lives in doing so.
Yeah, I'll play it all. I don't care people hear Nancy Pelosi making stuff up. I don't care. The American people have had it with her. She's starving families. She and Chuck Schumer are holding American families hostage. Everybody knows it. Barry in Orlando. What do you think, Barry?
Yes, good morning, Hugh. Well, I wanted to comment on when the media has an opportunity to interview Nancy Pelosi like Fox News had yesterday morning. We never get a question to Nancy after she complains about the president, a question like, well, what's your suggestion? Rather than complaining, what do you have to offer to solve the problem? No one ever
it's
asked
the
that
blue
question.
bubble. The blue bubble protects her. She's not very coherent. She's becoming Joe Biden-like in her inability to answer questions, and the blue bubble protects her. You're absolutely right, Barry. Thank you. Dave in Columbus, Ohio. How are you, Dave?
Yes. I think the Washington, New York news media is more interested in polishing their Twitter brand than they are in solving the problems of the country.
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you see a reporter get into it with the president, no matter how stupid the question, immediately Twitter applause occurs, and they get attaboy, attagirl. You know, they get reinforcement from the blue bubble when the rest of the country is standing there looking at them like, "Are you out of your mind? Where did you come from?" There is a disconnect. It's a profound disconnect. Thank you, Dave. Mike in Seattle, you're up early, Mike. Good morning.
Thank you. The Democrats are going to be a long, long time before they win an election. The media is totally in bed with them. They're going down too. And I want to know what kind of ice cream Nancy Pelosi's eating because I want to buy some.
No, well, you can't. It's $13 a carton. No one in their right mind.
I want to know who made it. Thank you.
All right. Tim in Florida. Hello, Tim. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show. What do you think, Tim?
Mr. Hewitt, thank you so much for especially what you just said about the disconnect in the blue bubble. There are those of us out here who have been seeing this for some time, and you're such a pro and you're such a gentleman that you haven't, in many, many years, called out some of your colleagues like you're doing now.
Stop.
I want to just
don't name any names, okay? I'm not interested in calling specifics out other than Jeremy Diamond yesterday because, you know, some people mistake general anti-media bias for what's going on right now. What's going on right now is, Tim, I think, a new level of dysfunction, don't you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree, and it was certainly brought on with the election, with the nomination of Mr. Trump. And there are those of us who sometimes say, thank you, Mr. Trump, for saying it like I would have said it. And then there are other times when, you know, we'd like to say, Mr. Trump, okay, reel it in just a little bit.
Yeah, dial it back. Dial it back. I agree. Tim, you're right on spot. TDS is everywhere, and the difficulty is trying to be objective about stuff, and then you all of a sudden along comes a Jeremy Diamond asking, were you duped? And you say, why bother? Why bother? When the nutters are in control of the media, when the TDS has reached so deep that you've got people asking, quote, questions like that, why bother? I'll be right back, America. 1-800-520-1234, connection to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. The movie I watched on Saturday. I told you yesterday's movie was Gettysburg. It's the music from the movie on Saturday. Do you recognize it? I'll give you a couple more chances. While that music plays, let me say we live in unprecedented times, and I'd like to say thank you. Now, keep the music going. It's great music for this purpose. Salem Media has a lot of great clients, a lot of great advertisers. And they are continuing to advertise Birch Gold Group. Send my name, Hugh, text it to 474747. My friends Andrew and Todd.com at Sierra Pacific Mortgage, they're terrific. PolicyGenius.com. Harry's, you know, I shave every day. I don't know about the rest of you, even if I'm not going out, even if I'm only running on the bike path, I still shave every day because I like Harry's so much. MyPillow.com. I've told you about No Safe Spaces, the movie. No Safe Spaces, by the way, 25% off if you use the promo code SALE25, Adam Carolla, Dennis Prager, and especially Job Creators Network, because they're rallying for you right now to get Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to get out of the way of business relief. All of these advertisers are just amazing, and I appreciate it. Let me do a market report, by the way, just a special one, an extra one for Birch Gold, because a lot of people are buying gold. They're either buying it direct, they go to hughgold.com, and they want to buy a lot. They just want to store up and put it in their safety deposit box. Fine. Don't over rely on gold, but you've got to be diversified. Some of them want to move some of their retirement accounts, which were in bonds and have done well. They want to move it into a gold-backed IRA. Text 474747. Use my name, Hugh, H-U-G-H. Text that to 474747 or go to hughgold.com. You really, really, really need to be diversified in this period of time with the market doing wild stuff. I look over at the market this morning. Oil prices are below $15 a barrel. Now the only stock I own, I went back into the market on Friday and bought Amazon. I had gotten out of the market. Then I see what oil's doing. That means the cost of delivery is just plummeting for Amazon. It's not good for the energy companies, but it's great for UPS and Amazon and Costco and Walmart. The only stock I own is Amazon. I do not own Gilead, which has got I wish I did, because I think they've got the wonder drug that's going to make this a terrible disease, but one that's curable. It's going to be like coronary heart disease. You can take care of most of it if you get treatment. So in pre-market trading, I look over and I see England and Germany are off less than 1% today as Germany begins to reopen. I don't know what the market's going to do today. I'm pretty optimistic, but I don't predict markets, but I did buy back into Amazon. I always tell you what I do because I am optimistic about the new economy. I'm not optimistic about the media. Not in the least. Not when Jeremy Diamond asked the president if he's been duped. What do you think? Mike, Santa Cruz, California. Hello, Mike.
Hey, hi, Hugh. How are you doing?
Good.
You have a subject that I haven't heard discussed, although it's related to China being pretty much at fault for this whole thing, is the whole notion of reparations when this is all over.
They're going to get sued everywhere. Now, they have sovereign immunity, and we're going to have to breach their sovereign immunity, and they have state-sponsored enterprises, SSEs, or state-sponsored operations, SSOs, that shield themselves in sovereign immunity, but they're going to get sued everywhere. So we're going to go after them, Mike. We're going to go after them because they've destroyed the world economy, and it's the Communist Chinese Party, CCP.
Well,
Doug in Pittsburgh. Got to move on. Sorry, my friend. Doug, go ahead.
Hi, Hugh. How are you?
Good.
A little while ago, you asked Zito how Western Pennsylvania is handling this. What the governors are doing is, Whitmer in Michigan has been somewhat outrageous. But in Pennsylvania, Wolf has deputized, essentially, everyone who's still working. If you walk in, you're supposed to refuse services to customers if they don't have a mask on. We're getting into the, take-in confirmation hearing questions regarding the Commerce Clause.
All right, I haven't followed Wolf. I just don't think Governor Whitmer is particularly gifted. How's that for a diplomatic way of saying it? Governor Whitmer, I feel bad for the state up north, even though we'll beat him again in the horseshoe this year, but I feel bad for him. because they are being led by someone who's just not particularly gifted. Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Okay, so did you hear me earlier? We're down
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Continuing my virus days habit of playing you music from the movie I watched over the weekend. No one's guessed it yet on Twitter. This is you guessed Gettysburg from hour one. This is my Saturday movie, if you know the theme song. If you know the soundtrack. Mike Allen, you know which soundtrack this is?
I defer to you, Hugh, on all matters choral.
I will leave it to people. They can keep guessing. Mike Allen, of course, from Axios AM, Axios.com. You should be getting his morning newsletter. Mike, on a personal note, you're an Orange County boy. I am not. I was born in Ohio, but I raised my family, so my boys are Orange County boys. My girl's an Orange County girl, and the fetching Mrs. Hewitt is a San Diego girl. So this morning I read a piece by Pete Bowen. You remember Servite High School, Mike Allen?
Of course, they were always a football powerhouse.
Absolutely. And Pete Bowen was head of the president of Servite for many years. He was a Navy Marine Corps aviator, head ethical officer for LAUSD, and now a private consultant. He's penned the most moving commentary on the impact of the virus that I have seen. I've posted it at Twitter, and you can follow him at Pete Bowen. I wonder, do you think inside our Beltway, among our friends, do we have any idea what's going on economically across the country?
Well, you and a lot of my friends are doing a lot to intentionally stay in touch with it, to talk to someone who dreamed of having a restaurant, and they maybe wound up with a couple of restaurants, and now they have no way to pay someone. Maybe they have a restaurant, and now they're trying to offer to-go orders, and like finding the business, like there's a couple of bags out there. Some of these restaurants, some very fancy restaurants here in D.C., offering beautiful to-go meals. And as I walk around, I spend a lot of time walking around in Arlington, just checking out the streetscape. And there are a few places that have a number of people trying to buy from them. But overall, it looks pretty slow, very hard to keep the staff on. And you've seen that restaurants are trying to be creative. More and more of them are offering groceries. And so small businesses like doing so much, but you have to travel, you have to talk to people as ever inside the Beltway, as you point out. So much of America is cushioned, obscured, but you'd have to really have your head in the clouds or under a rock, as my mother would say, to not know what a calamity this is for hardworking people in every single part of America.
That's a great word, calamity. And you're a good man. People don't know how good a man Mike Allen is, but he is very, very devoted to a lot of great causes. And you know what I think is also not much noticed, Mike, is that the invisible safety net in this country provided by communities of faith of all denominations, but they're all out there with food pantries and a variety of ways to assist the lost and the least, whether it's Salvation Army or it's just the local City Light Church in San Diego. I've been following their tweets. They're out of money. They're eligible for PPP, but banks either don't know or they're way down on the list because they're not business customers. I think the invisible safety net is in shreds, Mike Allen. Do you have any evidence one way or the other?
I do, Hugh. I can tell you that most churches, even a church that is comfortable, that is well supported by its congregation, has maybe a couple of months of cash. Private schools, faith-based schools, same deal. This is where the social fabric of the country is suddenly in real danger. Because yesterday on CNN's State of the Union, Jake Tapper pressed Secretary Mnuchin on whether it's going to be months or years before a recovery. And he was clear that it's months, not years. But Hugh, Jim Vandehei and I popped up a piece on Axios yesterday with the lead of Sneak Peek newsletter, Your Future Foretold. And Hugh, let's buy every rosy scenario that's out there about like how business is going to come back and markets are going to come back. But Hugh, your future foretold is that we're going to be paying for this crisis, financially and psychically, for generations. The debt that's being piled on. Think about this. The opportunity cost, Hugh, of businesses that aren't expanding, that weren't started, that aren't being funded, that aren't growing, all that's very hard to measure, but it's very real.
And, Mike, I know that. That's why I want them to come out with the pandemic bonds, which are basically negative interest bonds, because I think they ought to challenge every American of means to put 10% of their wealth into this, because it is a vast cost. Maybe more. I mean, if Mark Zuckerberg is worth $80 billion, he should buy $8 billion worth of bonds. If anyone is out there is worth $1 million, they ought to buy $100,000 worth of these pandemic bonds, because you are right. This is a generational debt. I am concerned, though, in the immediate need that Pete Bowen sketches out, the need for food and shelter, for cable, for television, for heat and gas. We've got, for air conditioning in the summer, the Paycheck Protection Plan Part 1, and hopefully we get one Part 2 this week. It seems to me for as long as parts of America are shut down, we're just going to have to say, if you got it before, you get it again every 2 months, Mike. It's not even rocket science. If you got it before, you get it again, and keep lining up until we've satisfied every business that qualifies, no matter the cost, because while we can recover, if the engine is running, we won't be able to recover from a catastrophe. I was reading in your Axios AM this morning, essential businesses. You know what's essential? Any business that puts a roof over a head, feeds a family, and provides a future is an essential business. And while some can reopen earlier than others.
That is every business. That is every
It is.
business.
It is. And so I believe the idea that some are essential and other, we ought to call first to reopen, not essential, because every business is essential. I think we need to put that message out there. And some are going to reopen earlier, but every business is essential, Mike. And I honestly think you may not. I don't want to put you in a hard space. I got mad at you once a year, and I've already been mad at you once this year. So, but I think Nancy Pelosi is getting off too easily on this, Mike, because the freezer full of ice cream and chocolate, I've never seen anything like it in my life. George H.W. Bush, when he didn't know how to work the checkout counter, got rolled over with his steamroller. Are the Democrats going to get out of the way today or this week?
You know my view of this. It takes two to tango. And yes, I think that the two are going to tango this week. It's very rare that you hear the Treasury Secretary and Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi and others all saying the same thing. And they say they're close. And you know that lawmakers stay close to their constituents. All politics is local. And they're hearing exactly the stories that you're talking about, people who weren't able to qualify the first time, people who qualified, but it's a lifeline. And as you point out, in a couple months, they're going to need a couple more yards of lifeline. And so I like your idea of redoing it, the fact that I agree with your idea that this is going to have to be revisited frequently.
Let me pick up on something I did not know. I love this piece in Axios AM this morning. I think Zuckerberg's pretty smart. I've had a couple of occasions to sit down with him. I think he's actually public-spirited, though many people disagree with me. I believe he's right about the new superpower being data sharing. I don't know that he's aware of the problems that antitrust law presents here, and it's going to be a real challenge. But would you just take 2 minutes to summarize to people? Because it seems to me Axios AM had a unique opportunity to talk to Zuckerberg.
Yeah, so Facebook is out today with county-by-county maps showing people who are experiencing symptoms, which, of course, can be a leading indicator of what's to come. And the point that Mark Zuckerberg made both to Axios and in an op-ed that he just popped up on the Washington Post was that the superpower that we now have, that we didn't have in previous pandemics, is the ability to harness data to help guide our decisions. And he makes the point, he says, if we use it responsibly, I'm optimistic data can help the world respond to this health crisis and get us started on the road to recovery. So These maps are up now at Facebook. You can check them out. They partnered with Carnegie Mellon to make them, and Hugh, Facebook is now starting to do these around the world, and we'll have those results soon. The idea is that...
Yeah, excellent reporting. I mean, I think this is very excellent. It's why I get Axios AM every morning, because I didn't know about this story. Mike Allen, thank you for coming back a little bit later today. Keep up the great work. Stay healthy, stay safe, and always good to have you, my friend. Mike Allen, follow him on Twitter. Go read Pete Bowen, one of your Orange County buddies. Time for me to show you again the ReliefFactor.com. I got a lot to do today. ReliefFactor.com. I honestly tell you, I did a 42-mile week last week. The only good thing about this doggone terrible tragedy is that a lot of us are getting the exercise we said we always would get on a regular basis. ReliefFactor.com might help you do that. You know what else they make? They make HonorBoundCoffee.com. 100% of the profits from HonorBound Coffee go to support military families. You should subscribe to it today. The combination, you do good with HonorBound Coffee, you get great coffee. HonorBoundCoffee.com. You subscribe to it. It comes every month. And then you don't have to ever buy coffee in a store. And then every cup of coffee you drink benefits military families. And boy, do they need help in these times, just like you. And ReliefFactor.com are for those of you who are out there and you are now walking further than you ever did, and you're doing things you've never done before because you know you've got to stay healthy. You can't go to the gym yet. Some gyms are going to reopen this week. That's good. Appropriately distanced, safely washed down, etc. But ReliefFactor.com, especially for our outdoor athletes. Also want to do a pre-market report brought to you by Birch Gold. Send my name, Hugh, to 474747 via text. Look, the market is just a roller coaster. You've got to be diversified. You've got to be diversified. You've got to be diversified. Now, you can go to hughgold.com and figure it. They'll send you the free information package. You can text my name, Hugh, to 474747. What they are best at, I mean, they can't sell you just physical gold if you're buying enough of it. But what they really want to do is get you to diversify your retirement. And I believe in that. One or the other, own gold or diversify your retirement. Either way, Birch Gold via hughgold.com or texting my name, Hugh, to 474747. You also might note that the 10-year Treasury is at 0.65% right now. That means andrewandtodd.com are going to wake up to a list of phone calls about, can I refinance, can I buy? And if anyone can get it done, andrewandtodd.com can. Sierra Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. Overseas, Germany and England are both now off more than 1%. And oil prices have crashed in the United States below $15 a barrel, which means the only people that are going to win are people like Amazon. And I always tell you I own Amazon, but I think they'll be good again. But generally, the best right now are people who are buying real estate as an investment. If you can figure out if you're qualified, you go to andrewandtodd.com. andrewandtodd.com. David Cortman joins me next because I want people to understand if you're a church or a faith community, you're eligible for PPP. David Cortman with Alliance Defending Freedom is next. Stay tuned.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Alliance Defending Freedom.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I've been playing the theme song from my movie selections over the weekend. This is from Glory, which is really one of the most remarkable movies I haven't watched in 30 years. Denzel Washington's first big breakthrough movie. If you haven't seen Matthew Broderick as the leader of the 54th Massachusetts, I urge you to do so. Joined now by David Cortman of Alliance Defending Freedom. Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, is the country's preeminent leading defender of religious liberty. David is one of my favorite guests. Good morning, David. How fares the Cortman family and the larger Alliance Defending Freedom family?
Everyone's doing well. We are all working remotely and video most days, but everyone's healthy. How about you all?
Good, good, good. In the Salem community, as far as I know, everybody is fine. David, I've got two subjects with you. First, there's been a lot of discrimination against churches. I almost reflexive knee-jerk will pick on the churches. I'd like your update on that. And number two, the Paycheck Protection Plan applies to not-for-profits and faith communities are included within that. I want you to just clearly state for the audience the truth or falseness of that. I believe it's true. Let's start with the religious liberty issues.
Yeah, it's remarkable how busy we are because of that exact issue where we have these stay-at-home orders throughout the country, East Coast to West, North and South. We filed several cases and even having to file emergency motions, what are called temporary restraining orders, for the court to stop these governments from saying, look, you can gather at certain places. In fact, in one of the cases, and it's interesting, where the order said you can go to restaurants and you can go to bars, but you can't go to church. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing in various places.
Now, I have no idea what the larger reason for that is, but the practical consequence is if groups are allowed to meet, or any set of rules that is applied to A must be equally applied to B, B being every subset of religious communities.
Well, that's exactly right. And what's interesting about that is churches that have several specific constitutional rights for them are being treated worse than other types of commercial establishments that don't have any specific constitutional rights. And so it's being turned on its head. And that's what we're looking at. What are you allowing across the board? Because if you're saying, look, you can't get in groups of more than 10, okay, fine. But you're saying you have to have groups of less than 10, except for what you'll see as essential businesses. And then there's 30, 40, 50 lists, but not the church. And I think that's the mistake that these officials are making.
Now, I noticed that the federal district court in Kentucky struck down the ridiculous order of the mayor in Louisville. Is that being appealed? Do we have a Supreme Court case that's going to come out of this? Is the Department of Justice getting involved anywhere?
Yeah, and what's interesting, we just got an order out of Kansas with a temporary restraining order saying something similar. Look, if you're going to have these rules in place, you can't treat churches and religious organizations worse. And I imagine some of them will appeal. They have not been yet. I would be surprised if one of these cases through this COVID response does not end up at the Supreme Court, because there are weighty issues here, not only for now and for the practice of constitutional rights, but what about the future when they look back and said, well, we did this before, so we're going to do it again. So I think one of them definitely will go up.
Yeah, I do. I just see a lot of anti-Christian bias. I really do. Now, David, I also see a lot of the culture of establishment clause idiocy, that deep poison in the well of understanding of constitutional rights, holding back some banks from funding PPP applications from church communities, faith communities. They're the invisible safety net, and they can't get these loans. Is there any reason why they should not be in line on an equal basis with any other small business that qualifies?
No, as a matter of fact, the Supreme Court for years, and especially as of late, has specifically said just to discriminate against religious organizations and general government programs not only violates the Constitution, but the court has said it's odious to the Constitution. And I think that's what people need to understand, because they try to say, well, look, they're specifically funding religion. No, what they're funding is the economy. They're funding private organizations and not-for-profits and businesses across the board. And that's what makes it constitutional, because if it's an even benefit, you can't say, well, we're going to give this to everyone to make sure their not-for-profit survives, but we're going to exclude it from religious organization. That actually violates the Constitution.
David, when the dust clears and we reopen, I think there's going to be a lot of accounts settled with banks that turned away churches. I think it would be wise for every bank to make sure that every 10th application is a not-for-profit in the faith community. Have you received any asks for intervention yet in what appears to be discrimination of the sort that we used to test via, housing discrimination. We had rent knockers. Last minute to you. How are we going to protect against discrimination by these banks against religious organizations?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we need, and we've been working hard on all the stay-at-home orders and all the churches and religious organizations being able to meet, whether it's through drive-in services or live streaming. But in these situations, people should call us. If there's a religious organization or a church that's been denied from the SBA, or actually they're probably being denied from the local bank who doesn't understand the rules, because the SBA actually issued rules saying that you have to let religious organizations participate, they should contact Alliance Defending Freedom because we are there to help with those cases. And I agree with you. It's very important they do so.
David Cortman, it is always good to talk. I know you guys are working hard. Alliance Defending Freedom is protecting the religious liberty of every faith community in America. Not just Christian, not just evangelical, not just Catholic. Every faith community in America is protected by ADF. They do such great work, and they're going to save the First Amendment in the course of this, even as lots of petty dictators just find it an occasion to vent their anti-Christian bias. Not with the ADF around. Thank you, David Cortman. Thanks to everyone on your team. Come back, hour number 3. Representative Doug Collins, who's a senior member on Judiciary, joins us next. Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings to everyone across the United States listening at home or driving to work. Some of you still are. You know, this radio business used to be 70% of our listeners in the car. Now it's flipped. But you've all found us and you're listening at home, and that's great. I'm joined by an old friend of the show, Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia, leading member on the House Judiciary Committee, just a voice for freedom, and I wanted to check in with him on the status of paycheck protection in the House. Good morning, Congressman Collins. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hey, good morning, Hugh. It's always good to be with you. Hope you're well.
I am well. Is the Collins family well?
Yes, Collins family is well right now. We're making
good.
it as best we can. As best we can.
Now, before I go to the House, you got to tell me, you're running for Senate in Georgia, and I stay out of primaries, but I'm fair to everyone. I want you to tell me, how do you run an insurgent campaign, a populist campaign, a conservatives campaign, when you can't campaign?
Well, you just continue to reach out in new and creative ways, just like your listeners have now flipped how they found you. Our voters are finding us, and we're making new ways to do that through the internet and through meetups and things like that. And also, it's been pretty amazing. Our folks have been finding us. They know that our message is the best one, and they're not real happy with what they're seeing from our appointed senators. So it's been well so far.
What is the website for the campaign, Congressman?
DougForGeorgia.com. DougForGeorgia.com.
You know, even the Steelers fans are going to be able to remember that. Even the SEC fans are going to be able to remember DougForGeorgia.com. I think that's wise, because those SEC fans, they're not pretty good beyond, they can count to 10 yards, but that's about it, Congressman.
But we count 7 points as well on touchdowns and national championships. So we do pretty good in that.
Oh, you know what? We're actually on the same page this week, because Thursday is the draft, and I want the Browns to get Andrew Thomas, the Georgia left tackle. That's my if on Friday I'm talking about Andrew Thomas coming to Cleveland, I'm a happy man. Congressman, I am not happy about Speaker Pelosi. In fact, I rarely get angry. I understand politics, but she's killing businesses. She's killing them. There are tens of thousands of people who cannot get paycheck protection because of Nancy Pelosi, and she's got a refrigerator full of ice cream, and she's incoherent. What is happening?
I thought she was tone deaf for a long time, but this is just taking it to a new level. And the problem is she is it shows what is wrong many times with the left, and especially with Speaker Pelosi and others in Washington who believe that Washington just does it better, but they're just holding out for power. This is the part that is bothersome. They want to continue to attack the president while at the same point holding out that they're trying to get stuff that people need, while businesses are dying because we stopped last week on having the money to fund the paycheck protection, which is the lifeline that has kept so many businesses going and needs to be more, because I have people last week who are just getting their paperwork finished, they're getting everything done, and all of a sudden, the money stopped. Now, what do you tell these people? I think for Speaker Pelosi to not make a payroll, to have to look at these business owners who are trying to keep their business afloat, she needs to be really, frankly, ashamed of where we're at right now.
Deeply shameful for her and Chuck Schumer. And by the way, Joe Biden is allowing it to happen. I want people to know who are tuning in. The Nixon Foundation, which I run, which we got 36 employees. We got more than that. We got a PPP because of the work of Pacific Mercantile Bank, and we're good for 2 months as a result. A lot of people didn't get it. A lot of small businesses, a lot of people with payrolls under 500 did not get it because they weren't fast out of the blocks. I'm pretty good at this stuff. I know what to do because I've got friends in Congress that tell me, it's opening up this day, and these are the rules, and we got it done, and the bank got it done. This is, to me, the easiest no-brainer ever. You have a government program that actually works.
And it doesn't work to keep it going. Look, the problem is this actually works, and the president and his team and Secretary Mnuchin, which I think on this part did a great job of understanding where you got to get the funds to. It's either or. You either keep these businesses going, you keep them where they can keep their payrolls, they keep them with what they're doing, or you're going to end up with massive amounts on unemployment. Think about this. They've always had an issue with this. So I think we're just continuing seeing that they want to see the businesses sort of come to government instead of the businesses do what they're supposed to do in an economy like ours.
Yeah, I had an interesting guest earlier, Salena Zito, saying that in western Pennsylvania, people are seeing what a Green New Deal really would be like because the energy sector is shut down. Oil's down to $15 a barrel. And so they've shut it down. And as she said, I think eloquently, these towns have died before. They don't want to die again. And Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have got their foot on the oxygen tube. So what do you think happens? Do we get relief this week? And then more importantly, paycheck protection only works for 2 months. So my little foundation, it's good for 2 months. If they don't renew it, which is the easiest thing in the world to do, every 2 months come back in for as long as we shut down the country, it'll just be the same drama again. Will anyone look ahead long enough to figure out that as long as we have shutdowns in place, we need the government to step in?
Yeah, well, as long as the government, but you just hit it perfectly. And I've had people come to me and they say, well, why are we, what has got us in this position? Well, this is a unique position which government has done the shutdown. So government has to step up and help these businesses get through this pandemic. And I think that's really the part for us is let's make this program, keep it out, keep it funded, and then make sure that we get the country reopened so that these businesses and organizations can start back again. And if not, then we're going to have to deal with this. But it shouldn't be basically let's get as much as I can, a candy grab every time we go in, wanting something that is just not reasonable. But we should get it this week. My hope is, from our conversations last night at the conference, we're hoping to get this done by midweek. And if that happens, then we'll get the program will start back immediately. And people who are in line already hopefully should be getting their money this week.
I think Leader McCarthy is doing a great job. I think you are as well. But I want to turn, as chair of Judiciary, when the House was in Republican hands, you had quite a lot to do with intellectual property. You know what the PRC is like. You know what the CCP is like. Have your Democratic colleagues woken up to what the CCP is like and what they have done here?
No, I don't think so, because you're still, again, it's frankly, they would rather attack our administration than attack the Chinese administration. And it's just wrong. I mean, when you see the stuff that's going on, I know you've spoken about this and the punishment that needs to take place. I believe that there needs to be definitely an investigation. There definitely needs to be more done to hold China accountable. But this is also something that it helps us now focus, and even the Democrats have to acknowledge the supply chain issues with China and with others are something we now have to address. When you have a country that acts as they did and yet controls a large part of our pharmaceutical, a large part of our manufacturing, it's time we bring that stuff back home. And I think China's going to have to understand that their position on the world stage depends on being an actual reputable player on the world stage, which they've not been for a long time.
You know, Congressman Collins, I know it's not up to the United States, but I sure do not know how we hold the Winter Olympics in Beijing in 2022. Not merely retribution for their lives, but I don't know how you would believe them that it's safe. I don't know how you would believe anything they say. There is nothing, in the law. You're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. We learn that if an evidence lies about it, if a witness or a party lies about something big, they'll lie about everything small too. I don't know how you believe anything out of the CCP.
No, it's not, and especially when you're seeing them go back to their same ways. There's reports of opening back up some of the practices of the markets. I mean, again, just with the wet markets, but also with some of the others, their research was skewed. We're seeing that kind of stuff. It makes it very difficult, and I don't think it's a bad discussion to have. Just say, look, how do we know that in just a matter of about 18 months now, if you really take it from a stretched perspective, that you're looking to go in because athletes and everybody else will go in early? It is a concern. It's a rightful concern that people need to have.
All right, let me close by asking your assessment of the president. He's dealing with the weekend reporters who are all looking for their close-ups, and they just ask the dumbest damn questions like, were you duped by President Xi, by Jeremy Diamond of CNN? That's going to my Hall of Fame of dumb questions. But how do you think the president is doing?
I think he's doing great. I mean, I think in the sense that the interesting thing is you think about this for a minute. How many times, I'm going to take it to a different level. How many times have reporters complained, we're not getting briefings, we only hear from the press secretary, we never hear from the president? This president goes out every day and talks to the media and tells them. The problem is they don't like what he says. And so they have to spin it and they have to form it into an adversarial relationship instead of one of saying, look, okay, Mr. President, I may not agree with what you're saying here, but how do we make it better? That's just not what they've done. It just shows that the press does not like this president. They would rather have an adversarial relationship and try to play gotcha moments instead of helping the American people.
Now, I want to see if you agree. There are some who are great, like Steve Holland, and there are others who are terrible, like Jeremy Diamond. It all depends on what their purpose is. Some are trying to injure the president. Some are trying to elicit information. The latter are great. The former are terrible. Agree or disagree, Congressman Doug Collins?
It's always good to be with you. I agree. Take care.
Thank you. Be well. Don't go anywhere, America. Hugh Hewitt will be right back. 1-800-520-1234. Connect you to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Job Creators Network. What do you mean? What did I do with it? I get rid of.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Thanks so much for listening. That is the music from Glory. If you need a movie to watch, the 1989 amazing story of the Massachusetts 54th. Matthew Broderick is Colonel Robert Goldshaw. Denzel Washington's big breakthrough pick. Morgan Freeman's in it. Gave me a little shivers because Sergeant Major Mulcahy is a lot like Dwayne, played by John Finn. I mean, really, Dwayne is Sergeant Major Mulcahy. I would encourage you. I'd forgotten. The movie is so powerful. I hadn't seen it since 1989. It's so powerful. I thought it ended differently than it does. And the reason I thought that is because the scene I thought that ended it didn't end it. But it's such a powerful scene. It was in my mouth that this is the end of the movie. It's not the end of the movie. That's how amazing Glory is. So there, go to that. Let me do a pre-market report brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com. As I told you last hour, I just generally have to say our sponsors, Sierra Pacific Mortgage, Hillsdale College, Birch Gold Group, LifeLock, Relief Factor, Honorbound Coffee, Harry's, my beloved Harry's, PolicyGenius.com, and lots of you are thinking about life insurance who never did before. Job Creators Network, where you've got to go today to be part of the effort to absolutely positively become a voice for small businesses in this time of need, where the indifference of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer is so extraordinary. You need to go to jobcreators.com and join. All of them together. MyPillow.com, Mike Lindell, Great American. Use my name, Hugh. Whenever you go there, you get the best prices on the site, but you should be supporting the people that provide us with the opportunity to talk to you, including Sierra Pacific Mortgage. 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172. AndrewandTodd.com if you need to refinance your mortgage. A lot of seniors are going to come out of this with their savings exhausted. They're going to need a reverse mortgage. They own their home or they got a lot of equity in it and they're going to have to borrow against their home. The very best thing you can do is get a reverse mortgage, but you have to be careful. It's a snake pit with people with reverse mortgages. A lot of people don't know what they're doing. They're selling it because it's lucrative to them. They think that they're going to make a lot of money. You can't trust them. You can trust. This is to my senior friends out there. I think you have to be 62 years and older, and it's only available on your primary residence. AndrewandTodd.com. Go to their website, answer a couple of questions. If you're a little bit older and you don't want to use the web, you're not comfortable with it, just call them, 888-888-1172. And they'll take as long as it takes to walk you through it. It's very safe. You'll never make another mortgage payment again. You'll get money out of your house. You live in your house for your whole life. It's not for everyone, but you can trust Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avaki and AndrewandTodd.com. The business story of the morning is that U.S. stock futures have slipped as volatility edges higher. It doesn't tell us what the market's going to do all day long. It just tells us that the markets overseas did not give us a lot of confidence heading into the morning, especially the fact that oil in the United States has dropped below $15 a barrel. That's going to be an extraordinary benefit to some companies like Amazon, which is why I went back into the market and bought Amazon again. It's the only stock I own. Otherwise, I own mutual funds and bond funds and stuff like that. I'm a conservative investor, except when I invest in a startup or I buy Amazon, because I just don't know enough. I'm not as smart as people who do it for a living. But I do believe when you've got an out there, $15 a barrel oil, you just know it's going to be remarkable. Newt Gingrich just tweeted out that my proposal to move the Winter Olympics from China to Turin, Italy would be poetic justice. Northern Italy was crippled by the communist dictatorship, dishonesty about the virus. People died. The economy was crushed because of the Chinese dictatorship. Speaker Newt, thank you. It is justice. It's what I wrote about in the Washington Post. You guys go Google Hugh Hewitt and Washington Post. Hugh Hewitt and Washington Post, and you will see what I'm talking about. Torino 2.0. The Chinese ought to be out of the gate and offer it to Turin. That would be a way to get back in the good graces of the world. Come out and say, Communist Chinese Party, we're sorry what we did. We didn't mean to. Let's put the Olympics in Turin and we'll pay for it. That's what they ought to do. Stay tuned. And I don't even know if it's safe to go to Beijing. Nobody does. Stay tuned to Mary. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, 33 minutes after the hour, the soundtrack of glory. I've been playing you the music from the movies I've been watching while in quarantine. Welcome back. I'm joined now by United States Senator Cory Gardner of the great state of Colorado. Good morning, Senator. Great to have you back.
Good morning. Thanks. Good to be back. Thank you for having me.
Now, Senator, I've got millions of listeners, of whom tens of thousands own their own small business, and they employ hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and they're all wondering, where is the Paycheck Protection Plan? Can you give us a status on whether or not Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi will lift their blockade today?
Well, over the weekend, obviously, progress was made, but no deal has been cinched yet. Nancy has decided that she would rather play politics instead of keep the jobs. It's a despicable message she's sending to the American people, to American workers, to American small businesses, that she would rather have her San Francisco way than helping the American middle class. And, Wall Street's one thing, but Main Street is a totally another thing, and she has decided to heck with both of them, and it's despicable to see.
Now, I know you have been hearing, I assume you have been hearing, I don't know, I haven't asked you, I assume you have been hearing from small businesses all across Colorado. Do they know why the PPP shut down?
They do and they don't. I mean, they know that it's shut down. They know that they applied. They know that they got approved. They know they have no money. And they're sick and tired of Washington. And I'm sure they know it's Nancy Pelosi, and I'm sure they know it's Chuck Schumer. But the bottom line is, how dare a group of well-to-do politicians in Washington, D.C. decide their political future is more important than the livelihoods of millions of American families? It's disgusting. To Nancy Pelosi, to Chuck Schumer, who have decided that they want to keep the politics and not the jobs, I'll keep my words to myself because they're probably not appropriate for the air or anyone. But we have to do a better job in this country to take care of people who are right now in the middle of a fight for their lives, their business lives, their family lives, how they're going to pay for food, how they're going to pay for rent. I don't know that I've seen as low a form of politics as what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have played right now.
Senator, I have a request. I've got a friend in Orange County, Marine Corps pilot, fighter pilot, then an educator in LA Unified School District. Then he was the principal of Servite High School. Now he's a businessman, a consultant named Pete Bowen. He wrote an amazing piece on what's happened to his business and his family. And, he's the 10% in America. He's one of the people who got degrees from Notre Dame and Vanderbilt. He's just a stud. And he wrote a very great piece on what has happened and what is happening to workers and owners and business people all across the land. And I wish you would send it to every member of your colleague of the Senate, because it just seems like Schumer and Pelosi are utterly clueless or indifferent or both as to the carnage. I mean, it's carnage out there.
It is. Hugh, I live in a very small town. And if I go shopping, it's at a small local grocery store, employee-owned by the few dozen that work there. I go to a hardware store because we need something at the house. It's owned by a couple I go to church with. I've known my entire life. They are terrified about what's happening. And Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi can sit in their offices in Washington and their places in New York and enjoy life, while so many Americans don't know what they're going to be able to enjoy this afternoon. It is terrifying, and they seem to have no qualms about it. Yes, what they are saying is important. We need additional funding for hospitals. There's no doubt about it. But to say that if you don't give us what we want, you're never going to get you what the American people want, I hope the American people really do walk into this eyes open.
I would never vote for another Democrat again. Honestly, they have put themselves up against not just small business owners, but the employees who work there and the service industry who depends upon cleaning those small businesses. It is utterly beyond my comprehension that they've stopped this. In fact, Senator, it seems to me that after you get everyone who is qualified through the PPP in rounds 2 and 3,
yes,
that you just start over again, because if you've kept the country shut down, if governors have kept I don't know what the situation is in Colorado, I haven't followed Governor Polis, but wherever the government is ordered to shut down, there the Paycheck Protection Plan after 2 months should just roll over and renew, because there's no way to do business. This is a government deal.
I completely agree with you. Look, the American people did what was asked of them by their government. They stayed home. They shut their businesses. They stopped commerce. And for Nancy Pelosi then to just ignore that and do nothing about it, for Chuck Schumer to go along with what is a ploy verging on evil, it is despicable.
Now, let me turn to, I agree, and hopefully they're getting bombarded. I think they are getting, I think that focus is coming into clarity and people understand that their loan applications, their grant applications are stopped because of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. And Joe Biden, by the way, is standing by. Has your opponent, John Hickenlooper, I mean, he hadn't won yet, but has John Hickenlooper called on Chuck Schumer to get the hell out of the way?
There's absolute silence because they must appreciate the politics, the style. They must like holding the American small business as hostage to a political outcome that, quite frankly, I don't know if it's in disagreement. There's no Republicans out there saying, well, hospitals don't need more money. We ran out of money in a fund that was approved unanimously 2-3 weeks ago, and now they're holding it up. You look at how many millions and millions of jobs have been saved by the Paycheck Protection Program, and they would rather play politics. These people are now going to unemployment insurance. They don't know what's going to happen. Look, before this, you had a country roughly of half where they didn't have access to $400 in cash within a 24-hour period. And Nancy Pelosi has just decided to turn off that one light at the end of the tunnel for millions of businesses.
Did you happen to watch Speaker Pelosi's Late Show ice cream refrigerator sequence, Senator Gardner?
I have seen the Twitter response. I did not see it live, but of course I've seen the Marie Antoinette Let Them Eat Cake montage.
And Fancy Nancy hashtag and Ice Cream Nancy hashtag. Honestly, I don't know how I've only lived in Colorado for 6 months. That's my total Colorado experience. I cannot imagine anyone in the Centennial State voting for any Democrat. I really can't. And they're closing down the energy. This is the economy they want, by the way, if they get the Green New Deal. Salena Zito made that point to me. This is actually what they want. They want to shut down the energy industry, which has effectively shut down. I don't know what that's doing to Colorado.
Well, it really is amazing. You're actually you're dealing with a group of people who aren't just running on a platform of, this is what I'm going to try to do to create more opportunity. They're actually running on a platform, vote for me and I'll destroy your job. That's what they're saying. Vote for me and I'll destroy this industry. It really is, I think, unparalleled in history that you actually have a class of politicians running who actively, in this time of economic crisis, want to do even more damage to our economy.
Now, Senator Gardner, I want to switch to the culprit, which is the Communist Chinese Party. The People's Republic of China is full of innocent people. They have been victimized the most by the CCP and the WHO. And the CCP went around rounding up dissidents over the weekend in Hong Kong. They're using the opportunity to shut down and get to the demonstrator who they are worried about. Have your colleagues across the aisle realized appeasement doesn't work? Not with China, not with Iran, not with Russia. Appeasement does not work.
Beginning to. I mean, you saw the objections to some of the actions that have been taken against China over the past several years, and I think right now they're starting to see that. I have met with Martin Lee before, one of the protesters, the pro-democracy, pro-Hong Kong individuals that was arrested by the Chinese Communist Party, and incredible people, incredible courage. But I hope that my colleagues are realizing it because the Chinese Communist Party will do anything it can and everything it must to maintain power, not for the people of China, but for the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party. And the coronavirus, the disappearing of of witnesses, the disappearance of journalism, it all goes to show what China is willing to do to hide from the world and to maintain its power.
I made an argument this weekend, one that's circulating in the White House, at the Olympics of 2022, the Winter Games in Beijing. They're only 18 months away. I don't know that we can believe Beijing that it's safe to hold them, but in any event, we ought to just move them to Torino if Italy will hold them and have the world pay for them because they've been so devastated by CCP perfidy. What other sanctions are available against the Chinese for their refusal to be transparent? Not the Chinese Communist Party. I want to be very specific. China's got 90 million CCP members and 1 billion for people, and it's the 90 million we got to worry about.
Well, look, I think let's start with a few things that we know need to change as a result of the actions China took. Let's allow Taiwan to participate in the World Health Organization. Let's allow Taiwan to participate in international organizations around the globe. They're right next to China. They are many times hurt by Chinese policies, decisions to basically cut off tourism or cut off the economy. And in the case of coronavirus, they're very much hurt by both deceptions out of the Chinese Communist Party and the denial of participation in organizations that could have helped the people of Taiwan. So let's start there. Let's start doing things that China won't allow because they're afraid that they will lose their control, but they're the right thing to do based on human rights or the values that we as a Western democracy share. Obviously, the Olympics ought to be discussed. That's going to have to be discussed anyway from a public health grounds. That's going to be a part of the conversation that needs to move forward. And so other actions that we could take, of course, entering into trade agreements with those nations surrounding China that are fair, because we have to get away from the unfair trade practices of China. We need to move our supply chains that we rely on for life to the United States. Let's figure out how to make sure that if we depend on it to survive a pandemic, we ought not depend on somebody else for it.
Let me play for you Jeremy Diamond at the presser yesterday. This is a CNN reporter asking a question of the president. Last question for you, Senator, but first you got to hear Jeremy Diamond.
We're going to find out, yeah.
So when you repeatedly praised Xi in January and February, you said he will solve the problem. You said he was doing a great job. Were you duped by President Xi?
No.
Were you duped by President? What do you make of these are the rookies, these are the kids, but what do you make of this?
Look, on January 24th, when the United States Senate held its very first briefing on coronavirus for the entire Senate, something that I had urged the leadership to do, about a dozen senators showed up. But the press out in the hall, you know what they were talking about instead of the coronavirus? They were talking all about impeachment. They didn't want to know what had happened in the briefing or what was said by Dr. Fauci or Admiral Giroir, who were in the briefing, Dr. Redfield. They just wanted to know about impeachment. So I don't know who was duped, but maybe the people not asking about it.
Well said. Senator Cory Gardner, always a pleasure. Thank you, Senator. What's the website, by the way, Senator, for the campaign?
GardnerForSenate.com. GardnerForSenate.com.
People need to go and help Cory Gardner because we've got to keep the Senate out of the hands of Chuck Schumer. And if you haven't seen why, you know why now. GardnerForSenate.com. Let me also remind you, ReliefFactor.com. I've been telling you about all of my great sponsors today. LifeLock, where the name is Hewitt. MyPillow.com, where the name is Hugh. ReliefFactor.com doesn't have any place to put Hugh, but you can always tell him, you can send him a note. It works because all of the Salem hosts use it because it's the 4 natural supplements everyone should have in their diet. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. Read the science, read the supplement facts. Support for the temporary relief of minor aches and pains. If you're like me and you get a chance every day during this shutdown, every single day, to go at least an hour to 2 hours of running, trundling, running, walking, whatever you call it, ambling along. If you're Dwayne, you're on an electric bike. Whatever it is, get out there, and ReliefFactor.com will help you do it. Also remember HonorBoundCoffee.com, HonorBoundCoffee.com. When you subscribe to HonorBound Coffee, you'll get all the coffee you need. 4 different beautiful grinds, 4 different means of preparation, just terrific choices. But every time you sip your coffee, then you'll be supporting the military families of the United States because every dollar of profit from HonorBound Coffee goes to support military charities of the highest order, military families. That's why you need to be a HonorBoundCoffee.com subscriber, why you need ReliefFactor.com. Checking in with Tim Alberta next. I think Tim Alberta is next. Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by No Safe Space.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. The movies I watched this weekend, Gettysburg and Glory. I love Gettysburg soundtrack. Everyone did. I'm joined now by Tim Alberta of the great state up north, which is really reeling. I'm not going to spend much time on your governor, Tim Alberta. I am going to ask you whether or not you hear from the House and the Senate if paycheck protection is going to pass today. It's been blockaded by Senators Schumer and Speaker Pelosi. Is it going to get through?
Short answer is I don't know. Everything in Congress right now, and this is like putting it pretty generously, is just sort of a mess. You and I have talked about this before. I've written about it at length, both in my book and in magazine pieces. Congress is dysfunctional. And it's moments like this where any reasonable person, whether they are right of center or left of center, however they view the role of government in their lives, et cetera, should be able to sort of objectively take a step back and look at the legislative branch of the federal government and be kind of disgusted with what they see. It's pretty gross that these people can't seem to get in the room and figure these things out at times like these, and unfortunately, I don't see that changing anytime soon. We both worked for in the restaurant business over the years, good family friend. He saved up his entire life to open up a little restaurant in Heartland, Michigan. I'll leave his name out of it, but he and it was doing great. He opened it up about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, and the place was doing really, really well. And I was texting with him last week, and the guy's just devastated. He just knows he'll ever be able to open his restaurant again. And saved for it his entire life, put everything he and his family had ever saved into this place. And there's a million stories like that right now, and it's heartbreaking, right? And there is